Call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. The City Council sitting at the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. First on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, we'll have to go into closed session.
Yes, Mayor Cabrialis, you have 9 items on the agenda. However, actually it really relates to 5 items because several of the items pertain to the different organizations that you represent. First item, item number 2, is the companion item to the Redevelopment Agency, item number 6. It is real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. Property in question is Southern California Logistics Airport. More specifically, it's the revenue-producing portions of parcels A and C and the balance of the EDC parcels. They don't have specific parcel numbers, so we commonly refer to them as Southern California Logistics Airport, and it's basically the property covered by the Master Development Agreement that's already in existence with Sterling. Items number 3 and 8 pertain to existing litigation, which is listed on the agenda, California Building Systems versus K&D Affiliates. The next item is Redevelopment Agency, item number 4. That is the potential litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, subsection C. We have the potential of going into litigation, and to name the parties at this time would be prejudicial to the agency's position. Same is true with respect to RDA item number 5, and the companion item is City Council item number 9. Again, it's potential litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9C, naming the potential parties to the litigation at this time could be detrimental to the city's position. The last item then that's not covered is item number 7, is existing litigation pursuant to 54956.9A, City of Victorville versus Eagle Mobile Home Center, and the case numbers listed on the agenda. To the extent there is any reportable action, we will report that action either at the adjournment of the closed session or prior to the opening of the regular session at 7 o'clock.
Closed session. reconvene the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville and the City Council sitting as the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, and the Victorville Water District. We do have from our closed session and report of action.
Mayor Cabrialis, we had closed session on several items which were fully set forth on the agenda. There is no formal reportable action other than suffice it to say with respect to the Sterling transaction that is referenced. There has been no formal agreement by this council to sell additional property to Sterling at this point, and any such sale would require approval of a disposition development agreement, which actually requires a public hearing process. So other than that, there is no formal reportable action at this time.
Thank you. We do have the invocation that will be given by Gilbert Lopez, a member of the Victor Valley Bible Church, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by our Police Chief, Cliff Reynolds.
Good evening. Father, on behalf of this council and the city of Victorville, we gratefully come before you in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Father, we are completely humbled by your unmitigated omniscience, and that before any decisions are made before us tonight, behold, Lord, you know it all. Father, as the scriptures attest, your word stands as testimony that all things work according to your will. This evening, the Council of City Leaders is faced with a variety of important decisions affecting our beloved Victorville. Annual assessments regarding landscape maintenance and drainage facilities, delinquent sewer and waste and rubbish fees, a non-motorized transportation plan, as well as various amendments to the general plan. Though not all here are agreed on what should be done regarding these matters, we know that not one of these issues is beyond your control, nor will the decisions made this evening overrule what you are doing in this city or in the individual lives of its citizens. Lord, we know that you alone have dominion in all the affairs of man in order to accomplish your purpose of drawing attention to yourself, to whom all the glory belongs. Father, I pray that you guide this council, give them direction, clarity, and unity in discerning your will. Help them, Lord, work together to understand each other's perspectives and build up our city with fiscal integrity and reliance upon your strength. Father, I thank you always that you hear us in whatever we ask when we come to you in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you. We will now have some presentations. The first presentation tonight is for our military banner program, and we do have Arturo G. Ortiz, who serves in the United States Army, and we have his wife, who will be coming to the podium so we can present her with the certificate of appreciation. We'll make sure that she gets this. Second is we want to welcome home banner, and that's presented to Corey Arruda, a United States Army. Corey? Yeah. Good work, Corey.
Thank you, City Council members. Appreciate it. Everybody, I got a real sense of pride going by the golf course, seeing that up over there on what was it, Tamara? Green Tree? Yeah, Green Tree. There we go. So this and $1 get me a free cup of coffee. I'm good to go, right? All right, there we go. No, I just want to say thank you, and always keep a soldier in your heart. So we're out there doing what we can for this. This is what keeps the republic going, right? One union under God. There we go. So I just want to say thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Next presentation is our Bright Lights Citizen of the Month. And for June is Susie Evans, one of our own employees here for the City of Victorville. Susie? We are pleased to announce the Bright Light Citizens for the month of June as Susie Evans. Susie is very humbled about her community service and her 21 years of coaching Victorville Little League. I remember you. Not when I played, but I remember. A little known fact about Susie that she was instrumental in starting the Victorville Youth Accountability Board in the early 80s and was assistant to Doris Davis in the formation of the Van Nuys Bears. Susie continues to be deeply involved with her church, the Church of Latter-day Saints, helping in various humanitarian efforts for children all over the world. And I know I've seen Susie work throughout the community for all these many years, and congratulations on being selected for the Bright Light Citizen of the Month. Thank you. We also have a gift. Thank you very much. Also have a Public Works proclamation accepting this Erica King and Mike Grigo. This proclamation recognizes Public Works Day, and I'm not going to read all of it, but I know the work that these individuals do for our community. The maintenance, the traffic lights, you name it, they're out there working on our behalf. And I would just ask that the community will go and visit them. They just had a Public Works Day for the fourth graders from Victorville High School, not high school, but Victorville schools. And it was a tremendous success. I was out there with the kids. They enjoyed the round robin training, information that they got. So it's very worthwhile to go out there and see what they're doing. In the City of Victorville, we urge all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with issues involving providing public works services to the community and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. And therefore, in witness, I have caused the official seal of the City of Victorville to be affixed thereon to this 15th day of June 2010. And this is a proclamation for the Public Works Department declaring Public Works Day. Congratulations, and I'll let them say a few words.
Mayor Cabrielas and the City Council, I'd just like to thank you for all the years of support you've given us, and we will continue to do that in the future. Thank you.
I'll give it back. Just kidding. I just want to say thank you. I mean, this is a good privilege that I had to come here. Finally put faces to all the names because I don't really get over that much. So I just want to thank you guys. Oh, yeah, that was fun. There's, I think, 300 kids that showed up, and there were groups about maybe 15 or 20, 30, or 30 groups. I'm way off. 30 groups, or 30 kids in each group, and they just kind of went around and pretty much every department that we have in there, like graffiti and street sweeping and everything, they got to go around and learn a little bit about it. So it was a lot of fun. The kids were really good, and I enjoyed it. So.
Congratulations. Thank you. We also have, yes, please stay here. We also have certificates for the children that participated in the essay for Public Works Day.
Okay, good evening. My name is Ro, and I'm excited to be here tonight on behalf of the City of Victorville Public Works Department. Under the direction of Director Amr Jaker, this year's Public Works Day was a great event. Erica told us a little bit about it, but we partnered with the Victor Elementary School District for the second time to bring 300 students to our Public Works yard to learn about animal control, asphalt, fleet, graffiti, street sweeping, sanitation, recycling, and traffic firsthand. Students took notes, asked questions, had fun, and voted on the booth they liked best, and then were asked to write an essay on what Public Works Day career they would like to have when they grow up. During lunch, students, teachers, and staff were then pleasantly surprised to have the opportunity to meet Mayor Cabriolas, visit with him, take a picture with him, and get his autograph. This meant so much to all in attendance. Thank you, Mayor Rudy, and thank you, city staff, for coming to Public Works Day. At the end of the day, students took home Junior Public Works Day t-shirts, and when I visited one of the elementary campuses the following week, it was really cool to see several of these students wearing the Public Works Day orange t-shirt to school. It was really cool. So we would like to thank Victor Elementary School District Superintendent Dale Marsden for sponsoring the bus transportation to and from Public Works, and thank his staff, especially Melissa Timko Miller, for coordinating student and staff participation. And a big thanks goes out to our Public Works professionals. Having this opportunity to display our duties and skills really helped to boost the department morale. We very much enjoyed meeting and teaching these awesome, well-mannered kids. We want to continue this fun and educational program and look forward to Public Works Day 2011. Okay, so almost to the awards, Mayor. We want to just make sure that we're thanking our sponsors for their generous donations and for the prize donations. We couldn't have done this without them. Thank you, and much appreciation goes out to Cooley Construction, Graves and King, Green DeBortnowski, and Quintanilla. High Grade Material, High Desert Mavericks, Hometown Buffet, Kemper Campbell Ranch, Safeway Sign Company, Sure Realty, Sherwin-Williams, Sterling Enterprises, Victor Valley Federal Credit Union, Victorville Recycling Program, Victor Valley Transit Authority, and Victorville Water. Tonight's essay winners have inspired and uplifted us with their entries, and we would like to ask each student to come forward when their award is announced. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First place, Kayleen Laree Reuter. Second place, Christopher Brickback. If I pronounced it right. Kayleen goes to Lomitas Career Academy, and so does Christopher, Lomitas Career Academy. Third place is Jake Garrett, Lomitas Career Academy. Okay, we also have an honorable mention for Adriana Sanchez from Endeavor School of Exploration.
I'd like to make one comment while we're waiting for the mayor to come back. We were hit really hard on Bear Valley Road by graffiti gang members with the most beautiful shade of blue you could see. And these people came out on Bear Valley Road. You can't even tell where the graffiti was. They do such a great job. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is our public comment, and that'll be for all the boards and authorities that Victorville Council represents. It'll be the public comment. You're limited to 3 minutes. I do have one card. El Gatillo. El? Oh.
First of all, the thing I wanted to talk about is the vendors, illegal vendors up here. Today I was driving down La Paz Road. There's these guys selling puppies. They're standing on the curb right here. When they would have been crushed by follow cops. And there's a big difference between, calling the cops where you call them and turning the thing and what they tell the police, because the cops went to the wrong place and I had to take care of the whole thing myself. I got belted by the guy and I could have held him there and made a citizen's arrest. I didn't want to make it any harder for them because I know they're poor people, but they don't have any right doing that. I work for a place, we rescue animals. We have to get them their shots. We have to get them spayed or neutered before we can give them away. And they have to sign a contract. If they don't want the dog, they have to bring them back to us. They can't give them to anybody else. Now, these people are out there selling dogs. They breed in their backyards. Who knows what the hell they got? And I wish you would pass some kind of ordinance in the city to protect animals, because there isn't a hell of a lot of protection for animals in this city. I know. I crawl under motorhomes where the animal control won't do it. I've done it. They need to do it. They need uniforms, though, so they don't get bit, but I do it myself. Now, I want to talk about Hesperia Road. I hate to do this because I got to talk so fast. If you guys don't bring that thing to Nisqually Road, there's no sense in you doing all this building. You might as well just let them go down to Highway 18 and take a left on Hesperia Road, because you're going to have traffic backed up all the way from Nisqually Road to Hesperia Road anyway. Make sure you take them through Nisqually Road. Hesperia Road is going to be a mess. It's going to be nothing but bumper to traffic all the way from Nisqually to Hesperia Road. So if you're going to do it that way, why build a bridge I can't even figure out where you're doing it, but you might as well just let them go down Highway 18 to Hesperia Road and take a left and go to Nisqually, because it's going to be the same, traffic's going to be backed up all the way. Now, another thing, when you're going to get rid of them red lights, cameras, those things cause more traffic problems than they help. Going down Hesperia Road towards Nisqually, and then on the other side, Celica, is it Celica on the other side where the Wells Fargo Bank is? People know the cameras are there and they slow down so much.
You have 30 seconds left.
They back traffic up all the way. And without the cameras, they wouldn't be afraid. Everybody was scared to get a ticket. It's $500. Anywhere else, it's $90.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on public comment? Cynthia Patino?
Some of you know I am the daughter of Bert Lugo, and because of my father's service to this community, my family would humbly ask that the flag of the City Hall be flown at half-staff in honor of him for one day. I don't know if that's something that can be done or if there's a City of Victorville flag, but because of his 30 years that he gave to this community, we feel that he's deserving of an honor such as that. And that's it.
Thank you. He is also a veteran.
Yes, he is.
Thank you very much.
Yes, he is.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
what we can do. Anyone else on public comment? You need a card? Hearing none, we'll go into our regular agendas. And the first is the Library Board of Trustees. There are no revisions. We'll be in adjourned meeting to June the 29th at 5 p.m. Next is Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, and also the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, and Councilman Caldwell is the chairperson for those authorities. He'll do the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor Cabrialis. As to the Rail Authority, there are no add-on items or revisions that I'm aware of.
Or not.
So there is no further business for the Rail Authority. As to the Airport Authority, we do have item 3, which is a written communication regarding the transfer of the 4 hangars currently owned by KND to transfer those to SCLAA pursuant to the ground leases and the subleases, and appropriated additional sum of $136,617.96. Motion would be in order.
So move.
Second.
And again, there are no revisions or additions that I'm aware of.
No, there are not.
Then the
Shirley, they don't have their screen.
Don't have our screens.
Okay, if you can give me a voice vote, then I will ask IT to look at that for you.
Yes.
Is your yes votes? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then the Airport Authority meeting will be adjourned to June 29th, 2010, 5 p.m. these chambers for a budget workshop. That concludes both the Airport Authority and the Rail Authority.
Next is the Victorville Redevelopment Agency agenda. There are no revisions. The meeting will be adjourned to June the 29th, 2010 at 5 p.m. at these council chambers. Next, we have the Victorville Joint Powers Financial Authority agenda. We have no revisions. We do have a consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Yes.
Next is the Victorville Water District agenda. There are no revisions. We do have a public hearing, and we also have it's a companion to it's number 6. Carolee, with this.
Yes, it is. On the City Council agenda, the sanitation liens.
Item number 3 is a public hearing called to hear arguments for or against adoption of resolution number VWD 10-008, the resolution of the Victorville Water District, City of Victorville, adding delinquent and unpaid charges to annual taxes levied upon the property for which the charges are delinquent and unpaid. I will now open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 3, please come to the podium.
Mayor Cabrialis, you are also opening the public hearing on item number 6 on the City Council agenda?
Yes.
Record reflects that.
Thank you and good evening.
Lars Stennert?
Yes, my name is Lars Stennert. We're a builder up here. We have about 350 properties.
Can you hold the mic close?
We have approximately 350 properties within the city. And our concern is with the revisions of both the water policy and with the rubbish service within the city, that it appears that the city is wanting to make the homeowner responsible for the services that are contracted between a tenant and the city. And it is our opinion that it would be better to have the contracting parties responsible for those items. We feel the city should keep track of its accounts, that if the water service is any indication, then tenants will be able to run up $1,000 water bills with service never halted nor the owners ever notified that there's an issue. that a year later, the water service can't be obtained after someone raises their hand finally after a year, that the city is, by this action, possibly wanting to just sweep this under the rug and say, well, the easiest way out is simply to put it on somebody's property taxes, as opposed to going after the person that's responsible and who contracted for those services. We feel that the city should make a prudent effort to collect those from the people who they contracted them with. The services benefit the contracting parties. If the tenant didn't live at the property wouldn't need rubbish services. So to hold the property owner responsible isn't what we feel a fair method of doing it. In some cases, the city has forwarding addresses for tenants who have left and doesn't pursue those, even when those tenants might still live within the city limits and have new accounts at new addresses. In some cases, they've refunded deposits to those individuals on the old ones, even though there's outstanding balances. The city needs to make an honest effort to hold those people contractually obligated for those services responsible. As a last resort, when all methods have failed and have been exhausted, when everyone has been properly notified, when the tenant refuses to pay, when the service has been switched off because an account exceeds the deposit that was collected by the city, and when the owner refuses to pay and deduct from a security deposit from a tenant, then this should be an option possibly. But some prudent effort has to be taken by the city to collect those fees. Time is of the essence in these things. If water and trash services are allowed to continue beyond what a deposit somebody has and the services aren't switched off, that doesn't help the city and it doesn't help the property owner. So I know that the city has made some changes in their water policies on switching things off, and I haven't seen those enacted yet, so I don't know whether that's going to be a positive thing, and I'm hoping that it will be. I can only go by what has happened in the past, and I know it's been a lot of the city trying to bring the water departments together and get them organized, and I realize there's been a lot of issues and a lot of problems. So I'm not here to specifically bash. I'm just trying to point out what the problems are, and let's try and get this fixed so that it benefits everyone. I know that the city has a lot of issues, and I'm hoping that you guys will take under consideration the best course of action for all the people, besides the city, also the residents who support the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other one wishing to speak for or against item number 3? I will now close the public hearing on item number 3 and also for the City Council on item number 6. And before we take a vote, I would ask Reggie, perhaps you can respond to some of those questions and comments.
Yeah, I can speak on both the water and the sewer. Sewer, there's always been a municipal code that states that ultimately the homeowner is responsible. We have made extensive effort in contacting the tenant and then also the landlord. We've written off a number of accounts that we've reviewed, and we see fault on both sides of the fence, then we'll write those off. The remaining 900 and some liens that we're proposing on sanitation accounts are ones that we've investigated, and they appear to be fairly clear-cut. We have had a number of people come in and pay, so even though they're on the list, they're going to be taken off. We're not going to file until the 24th of June, and anyone that comes and squares up on their bill, those people will be removed from the list. As far as the water goes, the gentleman was correct. We didn't have any clear-cut rules. We're just now instituting those rules. Our billing system was messed up, but it's been in order for since January of last year. So we've worked out all the confusion on those, and these remaining accounts are legitimate to be leaned on. And many of the accounts we have forwarded to collection agencies to pursue the tenants and not the homeowners. So we have considered those items.
Any questions?
Mayor Cabrialis, just for the record, the council does have on the dais the updated list of the sanitation liens for council item number 6.
Call for the vote. No motion to approve.
Second.
Item number 4 is to request to approve Dell purchase of hardware equipment in the amount of $141,279.49.
Move approval.
Item 5, request to approve the purchase of water rights from Aqua Capital Management LP in the amount of $385,097.
For approval.
Second.
Councilmember Almond?
Yes.
Item number 6, request to approve the replacement and make-up water obligations to Mojave Basin Area Water Master in the amount of $1,565,353.52.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Reggie would like to make an explanation of the Mayor and Council in regard to this item. If you allow that, please.
Wanted to give a little explanation for a $1.5 million item there. That's for the replacement and makeup obligation to the Mojave Water Agency for the water that we pumped in excess of our free production allowance. Their water year ends September 30th, so it's water that we used from October of 08 through September of 09. Even though that is a large dollar amount, the actual dollar amount that should have been if we hadn't pre-purchased water rights through the Mojave Water Agency's claim program that they offered 4 years ago, and also pre-purchased like we just did for item 5 from various vendors that will lease their excess water rights to vendors like us or providers like us. We would have had to pay, our bill would have been $4.2 million for this same replacement and makeup obligations. But because we made these pre-purchases, we spent 4 years ago and then again some this year when we leased water rights about $2.3 million. So by making those pre-purchases, we saved the ratepayers $1.9 million on this year's makeup and replacement obligations. So that was pretty good.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Motion. Item number 7, request to approve a contract with Charter Communications in the amount of $27,300 to provide telephone service to the SCLA Industrial Wastewater Treatment Plant for the term of 60 months.
Second.
This meeting will also be adjourned to June 29, 2010 at 5 p.m. in your council chambers. Next is the City of Victorville agenda. Any revisions to the agenda?
Yes, there are a couple of revisions. Item number 20 has additional information included regarding the sphere of influence matter. There is an addendum to the agenda concerning the professional management services agreement for the Green Tree and West Winds golf courses, and a copy of the latest version of that agreement is included as well.
Thank you. The first item is item number 3. These are public hearings. We have resolutions A through H, and we can take them all at one time. Andre?
Absolutely. Open the hearing and consider all items at the same time with item 3.
So I'll open up the public hearing on resolutions A through H. And these resolutions are the confirmation of annual assessments for all of the landscape maintenance assessment districts and adopting the resolutions for each one of them. I will now open up the public hearing. Anyone wishes to speak for or against item number 3, items A through H, please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 3? Hearing none, I will close item number 3. Call for the vote.
Question. Yes. Is the annual assessment for all of the following that we're going through tonight the same, or has it been increased?
Mayor, Council, those assessments have actually remained the same.
Thank you.
Approval. Second.
Item number 4 is a public hearing. Call to hear arguments for or against approving the confirmation of annual assessment for all the drainage facilities assessment districts. We have resolutions from A to C under item number 4. I will now open up the public hearing on item number 4. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 4, please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 4? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on item number 4. Would entertain a motion.
Approval?
Second.
Item number 5 is a public hearing. Call to hear arguments for or against approving the confirmation of annual assessments for Maintenance Assessment District Number 1 and 2. I need to call the.
Sorry.
I will now call the public. I'll call the hearing open, and anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 5, please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 5, please come to the podium. I will now close the public hearing, and item number 5 includes 2 resolutions under A and B.
Second.
Item number 6, we already took action on item number 6. We'll move to item number 7. It's a public hearing to hear arguments for or against approving DAV 10-0005, non-motorized transportation plan, and adoption of resolution number 10-052. Entitled, A Resolution of the City of Victorville approving DEV 10-0005, a comprehensive non-motorized transportation plan, City of Victorville. I will now open up the public hearing on item number 7. And we do have a presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Mike Starzinski, Senior Planner with the Development Department. Item number 7, DEV 1005, is a proposed citywide non-motorized transportation plan, or otherwise known as a bicycle jog-walk trailway system. Back in 2009, the city recognized the need for a citywide trailway plan and applied for and was awarded a grant from SCAG, or Southern California Association of Governments. After choosing the firm Hogo Ireland to create this master plan, in a joint effort between Public Works, Engineering, Community Services, and Development, staff has been working along with the consultant since January of this year to create a plan to connect subdivisions with parks to schools, to places of work, and other points to give the residents of Victorville an alternative and safe, healthy way to travel. That plan is before you today, and staff recommends approval, as well as the Planning Commission recommended approval at their June 9th, 2010 hearing. The consultants from Hogo Island, Robert Zagara and Ryan Schneider, will be presenting the plan today. And Robert.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Robert Zagara. I'm Associate Project Manager with Hogo Ireland, Inc. I am here representing the consultant team on this project, along with Mike Thiel, Vice President of Hogo Ireland, as well as Ryan Schneider, President of Ryan Schneider and Associates. We are the consultant team selected to assist the city in developing the non-motorized transportation plan under the SCAG Compass Blueprint program. I'd also like to note that Peter Brandenburg, the project coordinator from SCAG, is also here as well. The Compass Blueprint program was developed by the Southern California Association of Governments as a response to growth pressures and many challenges facing the region. The goal of the program is to assist local governments in developing solutions to transportation, housing, air quality, open space, and climate challenges. The program is driven by the key principles of improving mobility, livability, sustainability, and prosperity. As Michael mentioned, the City of Victorville applied for and awarded the consultant assistance through the program for the development of a comprehensive non-motorized transportation plan. The purpose of the non-motorized transportation plan is to provide a safe network of facilities for pedestrians, hikers, bicyclists, wheelchairs, and health enthusiasts that will link public facilities, retail centers, and other areas of interest. It will also provide connectivity to other non-motorized transportation plans in the Victor Valley, including the San Bernardino Association of Governments Plan, the Town of Apple Valley, and the City of Hesperia non-motorized transportation plans. Development of the plan included background research of applicable planning documents, such as the city's general plan and zoning code, fieldwork analysis of the city's existing conditions, workshops with focus groups including representatives from the Healthy High Desert Collaborative, as well as bicycling and recreation enthusiasts, feasibility analysis developing routes by contacting stakeholders such as Southern California Edison and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and by coordinating with the various city departments such as the Planning Department, Engineering Department, and the Parks and Recreation. Based on this research and analysis, we've developed a system of bikeways and trails that it will encompass the entire city. At this point, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Ryan. He will explain the types of bikeways and trails and provide some background on his fieldwork.
The first type of bikeway that we have is what's called a Class 1 or a bike path. It would be an exclusive path, something like what you have on along the Mojave River. The second type is what we call Class 2 or bike lanes, striped bicycle lanes in the street. And the third type is just a signed bicycle route. So we planned a network of these throughout the city. We've also proposed off-road trails and paths that could be earthen in nature, so that we'd serve not only bicyclists who need a paved surface to ride on, but also joggers, equestrians, or others who might prefer an earthen surface to recreate on. We spent quite a bit of time doing research in the field and looking at the potential rights of way to determine what type of facility would work in which corridor. We looked at corridors like the Oro Grande River, some of the utility rights of way, as well as the streets, measured the streets to determine how much space was there, would bike lanes fit in the street, and from that field work yielded this list of bike paths and trail projects. It's a pretty long list, but you can see the map that it does really go throughout the entire city, which with each type of facility being again appropriate for what's there in the right-of-way. And here's a map of the entire plan with all of the projects on it. Again, the Class 1, Class 2, 3, as well as the trails. Probably the most noteworthy in this map are the red ones. Those are the bike paths, but those are also the trails that would go alongside of the bike paths for equestrians and joggers and the like. The blue are the Class 2 striped lanes, and the green would be the signed routes. So with that, we'll turn it back to Robert.
For implementation of the plan, we've recommended the prioritizing projects into 3 categories: short-term projects, medium-term projects, and long-term projects. The projects were prioritized based on various criteria, including cost-effectiveness, availability of right-of-way, destination served, and safety need. The short-term projects primarily include the development of Class 3 routes, which will be developed with minimal requirements, and some of the Class 2 bike lanes along some key streets like Hesperia, Mojave, and 7th Street leading into downtown. The medium-term projects include the expansion of Class 2 bike lanes, primarily in the western portion of the city. These would be developed with new construction and restriping projects. The long-term projects include primarily the Class 1 trails along the power line corridors and the rivers, for which the process would involve coordination between multiple agencies. It is important to note that the prioritization is preliminary. These prioritizations are preliminary, and the city will have the full discretion to prioritize projects as funding becomes available or community desires change. Broken down by priority, in our cost analysis, we determined that it would cost approximately $73 million to construct all the recommended routes and facility improvements. Broken down by priority, the short-term projects would cost just over $3 million. The medium-term projects would cost approximately $3.5 million, and the long-term projects would constitute the majority of the cost at just over $66 million. To help facilitate the development of these projects, the plan also identifies a number of federal, state, and local funding sources for the city to pursue. It's important to note that by adopting this motorized transportation plan, the city makes itself eligible to apply for a number of federal and state funding programs that can be used to construct the components of this project. That concludes the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council?
I have a question. It references SCAG's plan. Is this a mandated statewide plan for every community to develop, or is this some optional plan that you may or may not develop it as you see fit?
There's really no necessity to develop a non-motorized transportation plan. The city saw the opportunity under the Compass Blueprint program to acquire some state funding to develop the plan, basically as part of the SCAG project, the Compass Blueprint project. So
that doesn't sound quite right. Can I hear some more?
A couple things to add to that. If the city wants to become eligible for some funding sources, it needs to have a plan. That would
Okay.
be required. Also, next year, the Complete Streets Act will be in effect, where any city that redoes its general plan and mobility element has to consider non-motorized transportation within that. So you've already sort of satisfied that requirement. And then third, the guidelines are still being developed for Senate Bill 375, which is the climate change bill statewide. And the state will have some, maybe not specific requirements for this sort of thing, but this is the type of thing that the city could do to come into compliance with whatever may come out of SB 375.
So, all right, that explains it. So then this is a mandated one, it's an unfunded mandated one, and the penalty if you didn't put this into your plans, aside from not being able to access funds that have already been designated, or Measure I and all the rest of them are expended to the hilt, RDA notwithstanding, state stole $13 million from this community. Where is this money coming from? The general planning, I'm not suggesting we'd be doing all this stuff, but it's there, it's something, but we're being mandated under air quality district issues, right? The AB 32 and the 275.
Good evening. My name is Peter Brandenbrag. I'm a senior planner with Southern California Association of Governments and was a project manager for this particular demonstration project with the city. And just to shed a little more light on it, this was a voluntary project that was conceived by the city. Our Compass Blueprint program is basically one of our local government assistance programs where we provide small grants to support locally generated planning projects in the 200 or so cities in the region. By preparing this plan, the city is taking on no additional obligations or responsibilities to build anything, spend any additional funds for that matter. I think the advantages that some of the consultant teams have enumerated are real. It does put you in a better position to compete for sources of funding that cities who don't have a non-motorized plan are not eligible for, and it certainly may be a component of the city's overall participation in these upcoming SB 375 greenhouse gas.
The key word there is voluntary, totally voluntary and discretionary, and if you'd awarded the grants at the discretion of your particular board's mandate, I have no problems with that, but I'm afraid that, like Jerry Brown suing the county over not having a master plan on the green development of the communities, here we have this is a pretty good idea. I don't fault the idea and the fact that we've got one here, but the fact that we may someday in the future be mandated to take either a piece of Measure I or a piece of the redevelopment agency or some other aspect of our funding out to build this plan, that's where I have my problem.
I can't speak to any future state mandates, but I can pretty confidently say that preparing this plan will not disadvantage you in any of those ways, and would probably be to your advantage.
Any other questions?
I have none.
Eric? None. Okay. The public hearing is open. I do have some cards here for item number 7. Ellen Christensen.
Good evening, Mayor Cabrales, City Council. As a resident of the city of Victorville over the last 23 years, I myself am in full support of this comprehensive non-motorized plan. Last month, on May 3rd, we recently had a health advocacy biking thing to promote bike lanes here in the city of Victorville. And I brought the surveys from residents here in the city of Victorville, simple questionnaires of what prevents them from biking more often, what are the purposes that motivate them to bike, And the number one thing that did prevent them from biking is the fact that there are no bike lanes or paths or storage here in the city. And many of them have expressed concerns that they want to do it, but the safety issue, the health, there's so many different aspects of it that they were concerned about and they really want it. There are some members here that are sitting tonight that were there at that event. I myself biked upon that lane, and I just feel that it would be a great benefit. I appreciate the fact that the plan is presented here tonight. I appreciate all your hard work, and I really hope that this will be passed and that we can work towards making a healthier community. And I just, with the healthcare aspect, with childhood obesity in general, diabetes, I think having something available to the community members to be able to use the bike, to have families go out and be active and promote healthing to fight these things, the healthcare costs, is something I think would be a great benefit to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Hanson.
Why did I know you were going to be here?
Chuck asked me to say these words because he's a little bashful and he's just recuperating. My name is Pat Hansen. I live at 22113 Sioux Road in Apple Valley. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. These are the words of Chuck Hansen. I was reintroduced to bicycling at the age of 49. It was a commitment to lose weight I had gained when I quit smoking. During the last 6 years I worked, I accumulated 48,000 miles cycling to and from work. When I retired, it became easier to find time to ride, and I competed in races and long rides both in this country and in Mexico. After suffering 2 heart attacks and needing physical therapy, I joined a cardiac cycling organization. Through this connection, I became part of a 4-man team competing in the Race Across America on 4 separate occasions. This gave me the incentive to do a solo ride, and when the Promise Keepers staged a nationwide gathering in Washington, D.C., I took a 5-week ride from my home in Southern California and cycled to Washington, D.C. My love affair with bicycling is what has kept me in good physical condition over many years, and it's what saved my life in March when I suffered a major heart attack. My greatest triumph has been the Death Valley Ride. This is a 508-mile distance race. And in 1990, I was able to compete and complete this race. This was when I was 60 years old. The next time I competed in the same race in the year 2000. And I was able to complete that race, and I now hold the record for 70-year-olds. In fact, I'm the only 70-year-old person to compete and complete a 508-mile race.
Very good.
My passion for bicycling is keeping me looking forward to the day when I can again resume my schedule of riding 3 days a week, averaging 100 miles a week. This will add to my accumulated total of over 220,000 miles by bicycle. Needless to say, I'm proud of him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Chuck Hansen, and I live in the same place she does. And anyway, in the past, I've come before you many times advocating bicycling. And then I've also brought a lot of information that I've passed on. Hopefully you've read them, showing things that have happened in this country and worldwide, the advantages of bicycling. And in the past, I've got them here, I have received 2 proclamations from the city of Victorville where they recognize the benefits of bicycling. And then it's good for all ages, not only for transportation, but also for health and recreation. and I like the project. I want to thank you for your approval in making a positive decision for non-motorized transportation. Thank you.
Mr. Hanson, just wait. Not that anybody misconstrue what my challenge had to do with the financial issues, but he has come before us many times. Matter of fact, he even got me on one of your very expensive bikes once.
Yes, I remember.
I was more nervous about getting a dent on that bicycle, but I rode in the streets, and as the gentleman back there had indicated, it'd been a long, long time since I'd done that, and all of a sudden the traffic that was clearly not going to be running me over still made me nervous. We're going over a bridge and other things. We need a plan like we've done now with this non-motorized plan, and that's going to be a step in the direction that you've been pushing us for a number of years now. All of that's a good thing, but we also need, as a local community, commit to it in our way, so we can modify our votes and not be mandated from the state. And that's where I worry about the state and the federal government stepping on us all the time. We can do the job, but this tool right here that was just presented from SCAG's board as a grant is an excellent beginning for that. So I compliment you, sir.
Yeah, I'm happy for the project. So, and it's coming all over the country as time goes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jenny Wilder?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Jenny Wilder. I presently live in Apple Valley, and I am with the Mojave group of the Sierra Club, and also I have been bicycling since about 10 years old. The Sierra Club and myself applaud the City of Victorville for any projects that move the city towards a more livable community, and that means where everyone has access to get around in other ways other than driving their car, including walking, bicycling, public transit, for the children, for the elderly, and the disabled. This kind of plan will indeed make Victorville a more livable and desirable community for all. And as Chuck mentioned, it's coming not just in California, it's coming all across the nation. I bicycled Route 66. I bicycled from here through to Chicago on Route 66 in 1999 with my husband, non-supported, and it was a great ride. There are a couple of comments that I'd like to make about the plan. One is the priority is the Bear Valley Bridge over the Mojave River. That bridge, I bicycle that bridge regularly, and I've come to use, some of the times I use the sidewalk that's on the north side of the bridge. When you get off that sidewalk, which is extremely narrow, onto the Victorville side, there's a big bump, and then you are kind of jerked into the roadway in the traffic. If you're going back across the bridge on the sidewalk, you are in traffic, against the traffic, trying to make a right-hand turn into the College Fish Hatchery Road, which I understand there's a plan to put a light there. So when they put the light there, I asked that emergency funds be made necessary to at least extend that sidewalk, which actually there should be a separate bridge across the river for bicycles and pedestrians for access to the college. I can't understand why that wasn't done a long time ago. I've seen people bicycling on that bridge, all across the bridge, trying to get from one side to the other in the midst of a lot of traffic. I've seen people trying to walk on the other side where there is no sidewalk. So I think that is a priority. The plan, I saw a map of the plan just today, and I want to bring your attention to some of the issues in the plan. The schools are connected with on-road signed bikeways, so you're sharing the road with cars. I don't think this is adequate. I think that all schools and all parks should have lanes separated from the traffic, and I would ask you to work hard on the plan to make that more safe to get to school. There are funds for safe access to school. We've been missing out on a lot of those funds, by the way. There's a Yakaloma Bridge coming up that's supposed to have a nice bike lane across there. And there's some empty land off of between Yates Road and Green Tree Boulevard. There is only a bike lane there. That should be a path so that people can get up to 7th Street, which is Route 66. The reason I mention this is because there's an awful lot of people, including the Race Across America, that comes through Route 66. They need camping. They go to Mojave Narrows Regional Park to camp, and there's no safe way to get there. So I would ask that you look into that. Also, a separated bike bridge across the railroad track would be something that would be really nice. Anyway, I think my time is probably up now, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you. Carol Kratz.
Hi, good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor. My husband and I have run a bicycle shop here in the city of Victorville that his family actually started since 1974 with a former Schwinn store. We're now called Victorville Cycles, and we're located on Hesperia Road. With that being said, I'm here to tell you what my customers tell me, and many of my customers that come in are transplants from other areas in Southern California, and the first thing they ask me after purchasing a bike is, where can I ride my brand new bike? And it's difficult for me to explain to them, well, the city doesn't have any bike lanes, and they're pretty shocked about it. They kind of feel like we've fallen behind in as far as the whole alternate transportation goes and the green community that a lot of cities are adopting. So that's one issue. Also, like many of my other cycling friends have mentioned, we also need to provide safe routes to school for kids. Definitely agree with Jenny. There should be a independent Class 1 trail for the kids that go to and from school. We hear of a lot of accidents that unfortunately take place in and around the city that involve a lot of children. On another note, helmet wearing is not being enforced whatsoever, which is a state law. Anyway, we also have started seeing an increase in local community bike rides here in our sister cities, primarily in Apple Valley. They do have bike paths, so does the city of Hesperia, as you well know. I myself hosted a breast cancer awareness ride last October 10th, and after trying to sit down and design the route, I ended up having to take the 25-mile route into the city of Hesperia because that was the safest area to send these riders. And we had an excellent turnout for our first year. We had 84 participants. We raised almost $3,800, and it was just a real successful event, and I was really proud to be able to bring that first bike ride to the city of Victorville. But unfortunately, I would like it to take place in the city of Victorville. So, because that's, that's where we're located, and that's where we need to keep people at. This year will be on the 9th of October, and hopefully we anticipate twice that number of people. Basically, I really wish you would hope and consider the non-motorized transportation plan. It would benefit not just the residents of the city of Victorville, but our entire high desert community. And most importantly, it would put Victorville on the map for future organized rides that will certainly give back to our local community. And hopefully we can make this a place where people want to come and ride and participate in healthy events and keep our high desert cycling community safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for or against item number 7? Hearing none, I will close item number 7. I would like to make a comment. I agree with Mike. This is a good start. I myself purchased 2 bicycles from from them about a year ago. I haven't ridden 30,000 miles, but I think I've done about 500. But it's the best investment I ever made because I can tell you it's a way to really stay healthy, and that's my own personal opinion. So anyway, we'll close the public hearing and then ask for a motion to.
I'd like to have an opportunity to comment, Mayor. I think it's a great plan and long overdue. Mr. and Mrs. Hanson have been beating up on us for a number of years, and I hope this will not dissuade you from coming to council meetings and touting the virtues of biking. But I do want to comment, you know, a long time ago, and I don't have the date at my fingertips, but I'd say at least 10 years ago, I tried to launch an initiative known as the River Walk along the Mojave River from our beautiful park all the way to Victor Valley College. And I'm hoping to see that project before I die. So I'm hoping that this plan, if it's adopted tonight, will maybe burn a new fire under the folks that, for whatever reason, have not been able to deliver that. But it would be certainly not a 38-mile trek, but it would be a beautiful ride along the river, and it would address some of the concerns that have been raised here tonight, because there are schools on that route, and it links the college to downtown Victorville in a non-motorized way. So I'm encouraged, and I think it's a great plan, and I'm hopeful that the city will move aggressively to implement the recommendations in the plan.
Ask for a motion. Second. Item number 8 is a public hearing called to hear arguments for or against approving DEV 10-0004, various amendments to the general plan and adoption of resolution number 10-051. I will now open up the public hearing on item number 8, and we do have a presentation.
Yes, very briefly. Good evening, Mayor, council members. There are 4 different amendments for 3 different elements, and that's circulation, housing, and resources. The circulation element is being amended to provide for the new non-motorized transportation plan that was just adopted in the previous item. The housing element is being amended to provide for changes that have come from working with the state on certification of the element. As you may know, the housing element is currently the only element that is required to be certified by the state. As was kind of mentioned earlier, there are bills before the Assembly currently or the Senate that would require the transportation or circulation element to also be reviewed and certified by the state. And Councilman Rothschild is correct in where that's leading. The requirement, I should just add, for housing to be certified came at the same time that there were requirements for affordable housing many years ago. But anyway, we've reached the point to where we believe the state is willing to certify it, is in the process of certifying it, so we've made those changes. And some of those changes were presented to the council earlier in a separate memo. Lastly, the resource element is being amended to add and revise goals and policies that better address greenhouse gases and energy efficiency. Also, a new mineral and aggregate resource map is being proposed for the Northern Sphere area. LAFCO commented on a couple of changes and additions. It was actually LAFCO's staff that pointed out oversight of ours for not having a mineral resources map earlier last year, or I believe approximately a year ago or so. So we are now adding the resource map, and the titles should address minerals, LAFCO pointed out, as well as aggregates, and the descriptions need to be expanded upon. Those changes will be made prior to inserting that map into the plan. So there'll be some changes to the title, and again, just to elaborate on the definitions on that map, or the descriptions. With that, the Planning Commission recently recommended approval at their June 9th meeting on this item also, and staff recommends approval.
Questions?
I have none.
We will have the open public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 8, please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item number 8? I will now close the public hearing and call
Move
for
approval.
Second.
Item 9 is the consent calendar.
Move for approval. Second.
Item number 10, request to award a contract to Busco Utility Design, Inc. to provide plan checks for electrical engineering and gas engineering for VMUS distribution systems, extension along Gateway, Innovation, and Phantom West at SCLA in the amount of $46,700.
Move for approval.
Item 11, request to approve the execution of the International Swaps and Derivatives Association, Inc. Master Agreement, EDF Trading North American, subject to final change deemed necessary by the city manager and city attorney.
Okay.
Item 12, request to authorize assignment of the letter of credit for the variable rate lease revenue bond series 2007A from Fortis Bank to BNP Paribas.
Second.
Item 13, request to authorize the city engineer to certify right-of-way for the I-15 La Mesa Road, Nisqually Road interchange, and adopt resolution number 10-058.
Second.
Item 14, request to accept title, control, and maintenance of the I-15 East Furnish Road and adjacent drainage easement, post mile 45.20 to 45.30, and adopt resolution number 10-059. Item 15, request to execute various state and federal transportation program documents and adopt resolution number 10-060.
Second.
Member Caldwell.
Item 16, request to approve the temporary sludge treatment agreement between the City of Victorville and the Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Authority.
Approval.
Second. Only took 2 years?
No, this is a different one.
Oh, okay.
The other one still isn't approved.
Okay.
Item 17 is a request to adopt City Council Policy CP 10-05 on development impact fee, deferral for an industrial, commercial, and multifamily residential development, and to rescind temporary council policy CP-09-01.
Move for approval.
Second.
Item 18 is to request to adopt resolutions number 10-061 and 10-062, calling the November 2nd, 2010 general municipal election and requesting consolidation with the statewide general election.
Move approval.
Item 19 is a request to approve Council Member Allman's appointment to the Community Services Advisory Committee. Councilman Allman?
Yes. I'd like to appoint Lynn Jaruzelski. I've known them for many, many years. It took me that long to say their last name. But I thought they're in the audience with Lynn. Please stand up. And her husband's very well known as far as Baldy Mesa. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
Item number 20 is a discussion and possible action regarding the city sphere expansion plans. Mr. Cox?
Mr. Bill Webb, the Director of Development, is going to make a presentation on this, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As was mentioned earlier, Mr. Cox will have some additional information that was received after after this went to print. And Councilman Caldwell will be speaking on the presentation of the actual draft map that we have presented this evening. But really quick, just to back up, we have 3 maps to discuss, and I want to just go through them fairly quickly. The first map, which should be up on the screen at this point, should be coming any minute. The first map is you have it in your packets, what we've called the compromise map. That is the map that was submitted to LAFCO upon a unanimous council vote and is part of the city's official application for the sphere expansion to be heard at LAFCO's June 16th meeting. Carol Lee, could you call back and thanks. Because it's important that we get these clarified. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so the first map is what has been submitted. So there's been some confusion as to what the council's, so there have been so many maps and so many discussion on this over the past 6 months plus that we wanted to make clear the map in our application, and the city did a full application on economics as well as everything else for the sphere, submitted what is map 1, which is the compromised map. Let me go on to, actually with the compromise map, I'd like to just note that the vote did include a caveat by some council members that their support for this map, there it is now, thank you, was contingent upon both county and LAFCO support. And it's important to recognize that when we brought this map before you for action, the council did recommend that we submit it. However, there was the caveat, as I stated, that LAFCO and the county would support it by some council members. It's important that this map was achieved through a spirit of reconciliation or attempted reconciliation at a staffing level, as we felt was the direction from the county supervisor's office at that time. And if you recall, that's how we brought it to you. That's how we came to the lines after meeting with Helendale representatives, as well as having a LAFCO or county representative, I believe, in the meeting during the proceedings. The second map is this map. And this basically is the LAFCO recommendation to date. I don't know that there were any changes in the actual application. Okay, good. We received this last week, and you've just received in your boxes today the LAFCO report, along with their recommendation, along with our reports and Hellendale's reports and anybody else's reports and Code Road and everything else that's coming up tomorrow night. So, but at the time of printing, this was the map that we had. It appears it has not changed. And this is basically the recommendation of LAFCO with all mining interests removed and Oro Grande removed from any discussion. Those would stay in the county area. Consensus among council when we brought this the last time was that this was an acceptable fallback position or last resort, although no formal vote was taken at that point. So for discussion purposes, at the point that we were at, and knowing what we were up against with concerns over mining and TXI, Oro Grande, other mining interests, the council felt comfortable that if we had to, in a LAFCO hearing, staff had the direction, okay, if this is where we're at, we're comfortable with it, but again, no formal vote was taken. What's occurred since then is there's a third map. And the third map has not been discussed until now amongst the council members, and has only partially been discussed in various forums at a staffing level, I think to gather information more than to get our direction. This map has come out of various conversations, and Councilman Caldwell will explain more about it. But what I'd like to point out about the difference between this map and this map, other than the scale, is if you can see the dark blue and white striped areas of the Hellendale expansion to the north of the purple there, which is Victorville's sphere expansion area. On this map, they are removed except for that yellow piece that's coming down into Victorville, that is Palisades Ranch. And if you look over towards the 15 freeway, Wild Wash Road, there is now access for Hellendale on Wild Wash Road, and that area is included. However, everything within those couple of miles between Victorville and where Hellendale's current border is reserved for a future date, to be basically left to see in the future who can best support that area. And so it's basically left out of this proposal. This map is not at this point anyone's proposal, but with the hearings tomorrow night and with discussions going on about this, Councilman Caldwell felt that it was necessary, obviously, to get some input from the council. At this point, I just want to make it clear, staff, meaning your city manager's office or any other staff, have only one direction. And the only direction that we have at this point is this is our submittal, and this is a fallback position, and that's informal. And again, Mr. Caldwell, if you'd like to further discuss this, and staff's available for any questions afterwards if there's any confusion. And if you don't mind, I'll stay here and flip them back and forth for you.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mayor. I think the best way for me to start my comments is to go back to compromise map number 1 for just a moment, if we can get there. I think it's important that we remember that when we as a council adopted map number 1, the compromise, it was done in a spirit of cooperation, trying to find a solution to a knotty problem that brought the 3 principal communities together, the principal communities being Adelanto, Hellendale, and Victorville. I won't speak for anybody else, but a lot of people, myself included, did not feel that this compromise map number 1 really was good planning. But it had been suggested that it would be well received if the affected communities could come up with something that they bought into, that they felt was their solution to their neighborhood problem, in the Victor Valley. So it was not the result of great efforts to do the finest land use and zoning analysis that you could come up with, because it's not that at all. When I made the motion to adopt compromise map number 1, I made it very clear that I was only willing to do that. I was only willing to move away from my concept, at least, of good planning, with a predicate that it would be something everybody agreed to. When I said everybody, I meant because nobody had yet voted. The night we voted, Adelanto hadn't voted, Hellendale hadn't voted, we hadn't heard from the county, we hadn't heard from LAFCO, and so at least my vote was specifically conditioned upon everybody buying into it. And I've gone back and read the transcripts, and I don't think there could be any doubt about that. As we moved down the timeline, Adelanto adopted it, and Hellendale adopted it. County was opposed to it, LAFCO was opposed to it, Oro Grande was opposed to it, and TXI was opposed to it. And the reason I think it bears some comment about that is that there have been reports in the paper, and there have been articles and letters that somehow suggest that the city of Victorville has, I think the phrase, reneged on its deal with Hellendale. Well, I, for one, reject that. We did not renege on anything. We entered into a compromise in an effort to bring everybody together, and it didn't fly. It was not acceptable. And that's fine. The effort was made, and I, to this day, don't know that I completely understand why it was unacceptable to others, but anyway, it was. Out of that discussion then came LAFCO map number 2, and Mr. Webb's correct. To my knowledge, this has never been thoroughly debated, and it certainly has never been acted upon by the county. By the city of Victorville. So, whether it's tomorrow or whether it's in September, my understanding is that map number 2, the LAFCO map, will be presented as the preferred plan, and therefore the city of Victorville, city of Adelanto, Hellendale CSD compromise map does not have that support. What we heard in the discussions here was a plea from representatives of the community of Oro Grande that they not be a part of this. And several of us at this dais, myself included, specifically said, we have no desire, no designs to annex Oro Grande, and that their preference to stay in the unincorporated area, at least in my opinion, should be honored, should be accommodated. TXI and other mining interests expressed the opinion that they didn't want to be in anybody's jurisdiction, that their interest was staying exactly the way they were in terms of their mining interests, and they didn't want to be in anybody's sphere. They were happy in the county, and they preferred to stay in the county. So with that backdrop, there are some of us who started trying to find a way to address all of the competing concerns. And that brings us to proposed compromise map number 3. And at some point, I'm going to ask the council to consider adopting map number 3 as the preferred recommendation from the city of Victorville to LAFCO. And why do I say that? This map, in my opinion, more than the compromise map or the LAFCO map, addresses the specific concerns of the community of Oro Grande, TXI, and the related mining interests. This gives the protection that they seem to all feel strongly about of remaining in the county and not being tampered with by any of us, city of Victorville or the Hellendale CSD. Secondly, this proposed map number 3 leaves the mining and mineral lands under the jurisdiction of the county county's perfectly equipped to properly deal with those issues. The county wants to deal with those issues. So this provides, with great precision, in my opinion, the mining interest issues that have been articulated here before. From a more parochial standpoint, this map furthers the city of Victorville's northern sphere and Desert Gateway specific plan efforts. We have been involved in this for a great number of years and at great expense. It has been no secret. We've had public hearings. There's been newspaper articles. There's been workshops focusing on the development of the I-15 corridor and the development of a first-rate, upscale, planned community. And it has always been envisioned to encompass a great deal of the land that's under discussion in this LAFCO application. But in my opinion, this map number 3, while conceding a great deal of land that we originally thought would be best served in Victorville, but leaving it now in the county, does, in my opinion, give us the best development opportunities and the best land use policies for achieving that. It also concedes the Palisades Ranch to the Hellendale development, and that, I think, is something this city committed to several years ago. There was an expression of interest by the Hellendale CSD that the Palisades Ranch be in their sphere, and the then owner of the property specifically asked, and we specifically said at least 3 years ago, I think, that we understood that, and so having the Palisades Ranch in the Hellendale sphere made perfect sense to us, and we didn't quarrel with that. And then you get to the little yellow sliver that comes easterly to the I-15 corridor. While I am not sure that I agree with that, I do understand Hellendale's desire to have I-15 freeway access. And that's a legitimate issue and a legitimate request. So this map number 3 is designed to address the Hellendale concern of getting sufficient land to have freeway access to what would be, I guess, the southeast corner of what we propose to be their sphere. The value, in my opinion, or one of the principal values, in my opinion, of this map number 3 is that it leaves the vast majority of the area in the county. It can still be revisited from time to time, as I understand the process. And maybe as we move into the future and we see the establishment of growth and development and the need for infrastructure and whatever, there'll be a more defined development scheme that may make it more practical to consider who can best serve, who ought to serve, and basically leave this fight for another day. So this is agendized for the discussion. I asked for the opportunity to make this presentation to the council. It is my opinion that map number 3 is the best deal for everybody, because the alternative is we all go to LAFCO with 5 different opinions. We have a battle, and who knows what the ultimate result would be. And so in an effort to try and avoid the battle, in an effort to try and accommodate legitimate competing interests, at the appropriate time, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to at least have the opportunity to make a motion that map number 3 become the official position of the City of Victorville.
Would you have some people that want to speak on the issue here. Any other questions, staff?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I have a item at the end, before you take the final action, regarding the Adelanto property. There's a separate memorandum and a response from Adelanto tonight. I think it's 6:30 or 6:38, but I'd like to speak regarding that just briefly before a decision is made and at the end of the conversation. Do you want the speakers to, are there individuals from the audience that's going to speak on this first, Mr. Mayor?
Especially map number 3, or any one of the, have them have the ability to flip those maps around as people are talking on various maps. But, you know, then we're going to go through our comments right at the end. Yeah, but it's not on my screen.
It is. No.
There you go.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on there. Let me go ahead and get these. Craig Schneider. Speakers will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. My name is Craig Schneider, and I'm a director of the Hallandale Community Services District. In the past, I also served on the Formation Task Force and have been involved in these boundary discussions for 5+ years. Many negotiations have taken place over the past 5 years to try to establish our identity and our boundaries. And Mr. Caldwell and I, we've been in numerous meetings, and I appreciate the comments you made tonight. I take exception, though, that you think this is the best plan that was presented, because it was kind of presented to us last Thursday, kind of out of the blue. Not even aware that this was going on, that there was a potential compromise from what was voted on about 5-6 months ago. And then when we saw the LAFCO maps, I know there was disappointment. We all didn't get what we requested. And compromise was agreed to by both the Hallandale Community Service District and the City of Victorville. Both this council and our board of directors passed resolutions to approve the negotiated compromise, which I believe is now map number 1. Now I ask this board, this elected board up here, to honor their original vote and to approve the compromise submitted to LAFCO. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John Higdon.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council members. I'm John Higdon. I am currently the Vice President serving on the Hallandale Community Service District Board of Directors, and I apologize for the unorthodox uniform. I felt this was important enough to interrupt my regular trip, fly back from the East Coast, and drive up here from LAX tonight, meet with you. I'd like to point out a few points on this. As Director Schneider pointed out, that this was presented to us at the last meeting, out of the blue. This wasn't a proposal, this was a notification that this was being presented at the 11th hour. I'd like to point out that while it's titled Compromise, the Hallandale Community Services District does not recognize this map, does not endorse it, and we have not made any sort of agreement that would imply a compromise. The section in map number 3 along the freeway was implied to us rather straightforward that TRED would like to see this land go to the Victorville area for development for their purposes, TRED's purposes, and in furtherance of their company. I would like to emphasize that we do not support this. We do hope that your honored council will support the prior decision that you would come up with and push forward for that LAFCO approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Kennedy.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Steve Kennedy. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Brunick, McElhaney, and Beckett. Our office serves as general counsel to the Hellendale Community Services District. Along with Kimberly Cox, Hellendale's general manager, I attended several meetings with city staff to discuss an amicable resolution of the competing SOI applications. The meetings with city staff were productive and I believed were conducted in good faith. A compromise was reached where both sides made various concessions for the greater good of both high desert communities as a region. Formal resolutions approving the compromise were adopted by both the City Council and the CSD Board of Directors and duly filed with LAFCO staff approximately 6 months ago. I might point out that contrary to what's been indicated tonight, the resolution adopted by the City Council contained no, and I repeat, no conditions or caveats suggesting approval or consent by the county or by LAFCO or by the City of Adelanto. But now, less than 24 hours before the LAFCO Commission considers the agreed upon map, a private developer, motivated by its own financial interest, has apparently convinced at least one City Council member to reverse course, flip-flop on your formally adopted position, renege on your agreement with the CSD, and render the time and efforts of your own city staff moot in order to promote at this late date the developer's own corporate conception of where the spheres of influence of two public entities should extend. This third party, TREAD, is an organization with an acronym as apt in its treatment of the rights of the Hellendale CSD as in its unbridled temerity to stand with a straight face before this council and your constituents and present a compromise, quote, compromise proposal concerning an agreement to which it was never even a party. Representatives from TREAD appeared before the CSD board just 12 days ago to pitch this proposal, and the CSD board unanimously rejected their map because to do otherwise could have been illegal under a number of legal theories, including governmental estoppel, and because of flip-flop on literally the eve of the LAFCO consideration of the agreement would have been a morally repugnant abuse of power by elected officials and would have impugned their own credibility and integrity as public servants. It is my hope, and it is the hope of the entire CSD, that each of you as City Council members choose to adhere to the same set of ethical principles as the CSD board and reject the TREAD proposal and reaffirm your support of the true compromise map negotiated by your own city staff and previously approved by this very council. Thank you for your consideration of my comments.
Thank you. Kimberly Cox.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Kimberly Cox. It's such an honor to appear here before you this evening. It has been a pleasure working with your city manager and the planning staff regarding the boundary of compromise between the Hellendale Community Services District and the City of Victorville. During those discussions, a southern boundary for Hellendale and a northern boundary for Victorville were established by mutual agreement. CSD staff was directed by the Board of Directors to work with Victorville on this compromise. In the spirit of cooperation with a neighboring jurisdiction, the board accepted the boundaries presented by Victorville staff in a map dating as far back as August 2009. This agreement resolved the overlapping boundaries of the sphere of influence applications. On June 2nd, we were made aware of a new map being circulated by TREAD, which suggests that the southern area be left in the county for future annexation to the City of Victorville. Although Hellendale, if you could go to the next map, although Hellendale lost 8 sections, as the city lost quite a few sections, with LAFCO extracting the mining lands from consideration, the CSD board stood firm on the agreement regarding the southerly boundary. There were approximately 10 sections of land, or 19,495 acres, that the CSD removed from consideration from their sphere of influence in deference to the mutual agreement between our jurisdictions. This includes 3 sections along National Trails, which is the gateway into the Hellendale community, and 2 additional sections along the I-15 freeway. It is respectfully requested that the agreement upon which we have all relied for the past several months remain intact. And I'd like to point out that while the Community Services District boundary seems relatively large, more than 70% of those lands within the boundary are BLM or publicly held lands. The sphere of influence as it now stands is 79.5 acres, but total with the CSD existing boundaries and the sphere of influence, that makes less than 50 square miles of developable land. And in any future potential for a city, that is relatively reasonable. So we urge you to stand on our agreement. The community has, I think, the right to rely on the agreements that are made between elected officials. We were all disappointed when we saw that mining land being extracted. It was a beautiful, clear line, east to west on that map. We all lost. We accept that. I think we need to stand firm on our agreement and move forward as good community citizens and neighbors. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Cox?
Mr. Mayor and Council, the staff of Victorville and staff of Adelanto began negotiating some time ago regarding, if you will look at the map that's, well, that one also then. Either one, it'll be the property above the blue that's hash marked, that's the yellow, which is Adelanto. And the initial agreement that we arrived at was to detach from the city limits of Adelanto and include in the sphere. During those conversations, we discussed improvements that would be jointly beneficial to Adelanto and SCLA. And it was brought to my attention that actual discussions regarding those kind of improvements had started some time ago. And as little as, I believe, 2 to 3 years ago, there had been a discussion between our then mayor, the then Adelanto mayor, and the manager of the two cities. But it was never finalized what the agreements would be, what the improvements would be, or how extensive they would be. But apparently there was a general agreement that ingress-egress from 395 was important to SCLA. And because of those roads, improvements could be made to the Adelanto roads. That would be infrastructure improvements paid for with redevelopment funds. During the discussion that we had with Adelanto, they reminded me of those meetings, reminded our staff, and some of our staff members were aware of those discussions. And we tried to arrive at an agreement on what those improvements might be. And as we continued toward the deadline, we found out, we finally agreed that arriving at any kind of an agreement was going to be impossible within the time frame because of the wording that had occurred. I don't believe anyone's at fault. Question, would the redevelopment area help improve Adelanto Road? Yes. We believe it's necessary. There's going to be traffic, and therefore redevelopment funds could be used. However, improving a road or cleaning it up has thousands of meanings. It's a lot of difference between 2 lanes that are overlaid versus a freeway, or a road that contains curb, gutter, sidewalk, streetlights, fire hydrants, drainage, etc. And therefore, we didn't come to any agreement, could not come to an agreement. Now remember, we still want the agreement. We need to have the agreement. We believe it's in the interest of SCLA. We believe it's in the interest of Adelanto. And in discussing this matter with the attorney, based upon the infrastructure improvements that help SCLA, there can be some expenditure of funds for capital improvements. And we believe that this would be the right thing to do. When Dr. Pepper bottling plant went in, there is a new road with a signal that is in south of the base and that probably is not going to impact Adelanto as much as they originally thought, but there's still access westerly along that road to 395. But at the point where the initial discussion started with Victorville was road improvements, it got tied directly to Atalanto's request that if we are going to detach, we want the improvements in exchange. Since we can't arrive at an agreement, the request of Atalanto then is to withdraw their resolution approving that until such time as this can be agreed upon. Since we can't arrive at an agreement within the time frame, it's going to take a considerable amount of time, and you have a lengthy letters that went from Sean McGlade to Atalanto, Atalanto's response, my analysis of that, and as late tonight as, well, whatever the time is, at 6:48 tonight, there was a response from the city manager, Jim Hart, agreeing that we need to continue to try to find a resolution, but they would probably withdraw their support and not recommend that this move forward. Now, that is indeed unfortunate, because this was an opportunity to resolve all the issues in regard to boundaries, and this if we move in that direction, I'm assuming that the LAFCO would have the authority to take several different actions if they choose to do so, but we are not prepared at this point in time to agree that we will make improvements that a blank with a dollar amount that's blank in exchange for detaching the property from Atalanto and including it in Victorville sphere. So in light of that, staff cannot recommend that we proceed with that on the map unless that is the action of LAFCO. Whether or not LAFCO will accept this recommendation, and that is my recommendation to the council, that they withdraw the request at that point, or want to proceed ahead, we are still going to enter into discussions with the city of Atalanto and try to find a resolution, because it's necessary for SCLA, it's necessary for Atalanto. It's the right thing to do this, but it's going to take a considerably longer time than we have, and we have no resolution, therefore, at this time.
For 2 hours now.
5 minutes.
5-minute recess.
Mayor, call the 5-minute recess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Ms. McDonald is here from LAFCO, and she'd like to make I would like to have her make a comment in regard to the Atalanto-Victorville sphere changes. She has some information, I think, that would be very helpful to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to be very clear about the sphere of influence changes and the semantics of what's in the presentation. It talks about a detachment from the city of Atalanto. That is a jurisdictional change. That is not what is under consideration at present. Could you go to the other map? I think it's easier to see. There, thank you. The yellow area with the hatched lines, if the sphere of the city of Victorville were overlaid over that area, it would still remain in the city of Atalanto. And the city of Atalanto will determine whether or not it is ever detached. If an application for detachment is submitted to LAFCO, if the city objects, it does not even get past that to a hearing. So they retain control. The sphere of influence is a planning tool so that you can, in fact, work out agreements with Atalanto. So I wanted to be very clear because it appeared to me to be a little bit confusing. And in addition, those 1 3/4 square miles are not in the Victor Valley Economic Development Authority. Those parcels are outside the RDA. There is no increment that goes to the RDA presently to support their services from that area. That is unencumbered land. So those are my only comments. If you have questions of me, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leave it alone.
Any other information, Mr. Cox?
No, I think there's a misunderstanding on both Atalanto and our parts equally. It changes. It'll probably change the discussion we will have. But if it's included in the sphere, we can go ahead and continue the discussions and continue the planning. But certainly there is no tax increment to divide with anyone. So that's going to change everything. I think we can just leave it as is and continue since it will stay in the jurisdiction of Atalanto. It'll stay under their jurisdiction. They really have the determination If we cannot arrive at some kind of an agreement, it's their determination, and I think that's what they were looking for, and that's fine, so leave it alone.
Saul, you want to proceed with that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Few preliminary comments before I make a motion. I have to question the value of sticking with map number 1. I mean, I don't disagree that there is and has been a lot of effort and discussion leading up to the compromise that's reflected in map number 1. But it makes no sense to me for Victorville or for Hellendale to stick with map number 1 when nobody else is going to support it. If Victorville was backing out, and by Victorville backing out it was causing the compromise to collapse, I might feel differently. But whether we back out or whether we stick with it, map number 1 is not supported by anybody except perhaps Hellendale. So while I understand that it is important to stand on principle, and many times we all do that, myself included, but I think there's also an obligation for each of us to do what we perceive to be in the best interest of our respective communities. And for me at least, holding to map number 1, knowing that it goes nowhere, is an exercise in futility. Secondly, and I hate to say what I'm going to say because we have tried so hard to work together to come up with a Victor Valley solution to this problem. But in view of some of the things that have been said, I think for the record, I got to point out that long before these spheres were developed and presented, Victorville launched on a very aggressive and very expensive process of developing the Northern Sphere specific plan. It has been no secret to anybody for probably 5 years. And I think it's a little disingenuous for somebody to suggest that somehow Victorville is reneging. I could make an argument that I think it was pretty unfair to come in and drop a sphere on property that we had been working with publicly for a long time as a part of the Northern Sphere specific plan. You know, Victorville doesn't have the luxury that Adelanto has, or that Apple Valley has, or that Hesperia has, or that Hellendale has. We are boxed in on 3 sides. This is Victorville's last effort, reasonable effort at least, to provide for the future growth and development of this community. And while I think there ought to be ways that we could do it in a cooperative way with the sister cities and with the Hellendale CSD, that only works if everybody is playing with the same set of rules. Whether or not ultimately our position would prevail at LAFCO or not, I don't know. But I think to go to LAFCO hanging on to map number 1 in view of all of the opposition is not doing the right thing, at least for the city of Victorville. And, you know, people, at least one individual, has taken a huge shot at TRED. And let me remind everybody that TRED has been involved with the city of Victorville for the development of the Northern Triangle Specific Plan for years. And they have spent a significant amount of money. Now, whether anyone was paying attention to these things or not, I can't judge. But the suggestion that somehow all of a sudden something popped up that is just individually focused on TRED is incorrect. We are trying to develop that area in order to create jobs and to create economic opportunity and not let the I-15 corridor go as an untapped economic resource. So with those comments, my motion, Mr. Mayor, would be that the council rescind its prior action approving map number 1, and that it adopt map number 3 as the City of Victorville's preferred presentation to LAFCO. That's my motion.
I'd second that.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm seconding Mr. Carlos. Let me have map number 3 up, please. No, first of all, number 1, just for quickly, number 1. Oh, I'm sorry, they're looking at it, I'm not. Okay, number 1 up in there for a minute. As clearly pointed out, there is no compromise, number 1, and as my caveat along with, I believe Mr. Caldwell's was the same, that if all of the parties did not come to an agreement, then my agreement was off the table, and that's where I stand today on that. And besides that, TXI could make this map moot anyway, just by their choice of where they wanted to go. And they clearly indicated they wanted to stay in the county, and all the laws protect them, whether LAFCO or the county or the City of Victorville wanted to force them in. We could not force them in. They have the majority property ownership in that area. And so that carve out is theirs to be had at the language that the laws that the LAFCO and the cities are required to live by. So that would bring us to this LAFCO staff map number 2. I object to this map, and I could never support it. And if you'll move on to 3 for a minute, I'll touch on it as I'm speaking to 3. First of all, in my opinion, this is Hellendale's application is premature. They should not even be on the table. Now, it's true. It's a free country. Anybody can ask for Christmas presents. Anybody can sue anybody. Anybody can do a lot of things in this country. That doesn't make it right. The expansion of Hellendale's community service area around them right now is a disservice not only to themselves. Who knows how that community is going to go? They may want it, but that doesn't make it right, because it affects all the other communities surrounding them. It affects Barstow. I'm not going to be speaking for other communities, but anybody out there in the fringes, whether it's Barstow, whether it's Apple Valley, Victorville, Atlanta, or even indeed the counties, some of their roles out there in the unincorporated areas. All of that is affected by allowing Hellendale, an unincorporated community, to expand their sphere of influence an incredible amount. I don't even know if they've done the proper planning for the natural resources that are out there, but I do know that 2 major real estate people from the Barstow area had called me and asked about their general plan. And I said, honestly, I do not know what kind of a general plan they have. I don't know what kind of money they put into their development idea of expanding their sphere. Certainly, the beginnings boundaries were natural. They were a school district, but now they're getting out of those areas, and they're beginning to impact economically the entire Victor Valley, not just the City of Victorville. I had a chance to speak with 2 council members, one from Hesperia and one from Apple Valley yesterday, and both of them I made the same comment. I says, even though Apple Valley, you're on the other side of the freeway, and Hesperia, you're way over there, you've got a dog in this hunt. Because I want to tell you right now, whoever manages the resources, the growth and development and planning of that northern part of that area, it has to be very expertise and very professional in the way that they go about doing that. And certainly Victorville's resources and history and professionalism speaks clearly to that we have the capability. In addition to that, whether you believe the Desert Express, the TRED is the land people for the Desert Express, whether you believed it was coming or not, it is. Their shovel's going to be in the ground next year. And you know something? They're putting up $4 to $5 billion of private money. $4 to $5 billion of private money into one of the biggest projects that will ever hit the Southern California area in the next decade, probably. And the spinoff from that is incredible if you look at Husing's reports. So as you begin to parcel out who's got control of the land use decisions, all due respect to the Hellendale Board of Directors there, this is not the time to experiment with that idea and see if we've got all of our ducks in order. I suggest that I support this motion of Terry's, but I also know that asking Kathleen Rawls there, that LAFCO board has the right to treat this like a puzzle. You could take a piece out, you could put a piece in. That means that there's an infinite number of possibilities that the board could come up with. And certainly the Palisade Ranch area has been discussed. There's a history about that being attached to the Hellendale area. And the property owners in that area, like the TXI, have indicated a serious interest in wanting to be a part of that. And I would be supportive of that. I'm supportive of this alternate proposal, which still rubs me the wrong way. I think it's the wrong thing to do. But what I cannot support in my heart, and I'll give the vote tonight if that's the way the council goes, to support it with the yellow strip in. But I will go to the LAFCO hearing tomorrow, knowing that they have the right to do whatever they feel in spite of our vote tonight, no matter what map we were to vote on, and ask that yellow strip not be placed in their sphere, but in fact is left into the county. And for future development, as that major developer, that billion-dollar developer, is moving into the area and wants to begin to develop that they have to have a right to say who they want to be affiliated with, just like we, the community of Oro Grande and TXI is indicating an influence on their process. Certainly a developer of that magnitude that is coming ought to have that same luxury. So even though I would support this map, I would go to the hearing tomorrow and indicate to the LAFCO board, in my opinion, good planning is that you not put that yellow strip in there. I call it the Wild Wash Spite Strip. That's what I would name it, because that's what it is. You look at that takes the land use decisions out of the city of Victorville, and indeed the Victor Valley, for the most part, is boxed in, and future growth, land use decisions through that area is subject to review by an unincorporated board that 10 years from now may be well equipped to do what we're doing today, where all the cities in the county are doing today with their staff's professionalism and resources. But today, there's no way they can sit here and tell me that they can honestly address those issues. So my support is for map number 3, with the caveat that tomorrow I am going to speak to the board and ask them to deny that. My first choice would be that that LAFCO completely deny Hellendale's application at this time, so you're not ready to move ahead with an expansion of the sphere until you've got a better idea of what it is that you're going to do with that real estate out there, and allow it to stay into the county. That would be my first choice. Second choice is map number 3 here. So that is my comments, and that's all I have to say.
Well, before we vote, I just have a few comments too. And I will not support map number 3. It says proposed compromise map. There's no compromise there. As far as I know, we have the folks from Hellendale saying they weren't part of this this discussion, I guess, when this map came up. And I don't even know whether, I don't think it's our city map. And yes, we voted on map number 1. And then we had, that was a compromise map because all the parties agreed to that. But then we have LAFCO carving out, rightfully so, the mining interests out there. So I would support the LAFCO map before I would support the map number 3. Any other comments?
Mayor Cabriales, I would concur with your comments. I think that although the LAFCO map is not what we originally voted on and agreed to, there's reasons for what was taken out, TXI Riverside as well as Oro Grande, and I'm in favor of what LAFCO staff is proposing to the commission tomorrow night. So I don't know. I know we're being asked to vote on map number 3, and I don't know that we need to formally vote on map number 2. I think theoretically we did have this discussion. We did understand that was going to occur from LAFCO's standpoint anyway. So I think this gets at the same lines with that whole white area taken out, but it sticks with the original intent of what we agreed to with Hellendale as well as Adelanto.
Unless Mr. Cox feels differently, we have this as our submittal currently. We are have been directed by consensus of council that this is a fallback position if we're the only one standing and asked for information at the meeting. Unless something otherwise is decided on map 3, that's where it stands right now. No other votes are necessary.
You have a motion and a second for map number 3. Motion fails. Mr. Cox, do you need another motion on the second map, or is that just by consensus, that was our default map?
My apologies, Mr. Mayor and Council. The City Council voted initially. We filed the application with LAFCO. After we had discussions and input from the mining industry, we had a meeting that another map was prepared by LAFCO staff. We brought that to the council. The consensus at that point was the official position had been taken on map 1, but if it didn't fly, the fallback position was map 2. Unless there's a change, that is what staff presents.
Thank you. We have item 21, and we'll take that one first. So we do have an addendum, but on the addendum to the agenda.
Mayor Cabrera, I believe this is the item that the city attorney has predetermined that I have a conflict.
But I just want to give you an opportunity on 21, if you have any.
I have nothing further.
None?
Oh, you mean general comment?
Just comment, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Before you,
Yeah, let me.
before you won't have to come back.
Oh, good. Again, I'm going to harp on this until we get some kind of an idea from this council. It's refused to do it. We have the Yucca-Loma Green Tree Boulevard corridor that has been designated by the county and a majority of people in this council. I have objected and will continue to object to dumping 20,000 cars onto the end of Green Tree Boulevard and allowing them somehow to filter to the freeway. The nice thing is we would like to have them go down Nisqually, and then I would be all in favor of it if that was the traffic pattern. But there's no guarantees that. There's an engineering technique that could maybe hint that some of the traffic would not go anyplace but there. But mostly I can think of a half a dozen ways of getting to the freeway through filtering through Victorville. So we have to decide on a route. If we're dumping all those cars there, then the council has to vote on that and take that position. But there's some side issues that are very important to this, not the least of which is the bridge off of Ridgecrest and over the railroad tracks. That's a $10 to $20 million bridge, depending on which design features and everything else. Who owns that bridge? Victorville doesn't own the bridge. We didn't call it. We're not getting that traffic is coming from Apple Valley and Silver Lakes and Spring Valley Lakes, and so that bridge belongs to them, the county or Apple Valley. It does not belong to Victorville. So I'm hoping that this council won't agree to give up our DIF money and our Measure I money for that bridge over the railroad tracks. Secondly, the improvements down Hesperia Road from wherever we connect into this traffic. Depending on how close you get to Nisqually, there's probably several millions of dollars of improvements around the Hesperia Road, not the least of which the run is into Hesperia. That's another area that has to be discussed by this council. If we're going to absorb all this, then I think the council needs to take a vote on that and say, no, we're good to go for everything from Ridgecrest to the freeway and including the traffic point at Green Tree Boulevard. But it's wrong. Every time I have a chance, I'm going to speak to it in that fashion. There are alternatives that can be done and should be done and made decisions about. But until this council makes those decisions, then I'll just be asking the question. And when campaign time comes around, I'll be asking them then too. Maybe be sitting out in the audience, but I'll be asking them. So that's my council comments for the evening.
I have none.
Can we be excused?
Okay, we'll go to item number 22, and we'll let the
Yes, Mayor
city
Cabrera,
attorney.
because of conflicts of interest of 3 council members, Mr. Caldwell, Rothschild, and McEachran, and the city manager, I'm asking them to be excused. However, Mr. McEachran previously pulled straws under the theory of required participation under FEPC rules, and he has chosen the short straw, so he gets to participate in the discussion.
It was a piece of paper. It wasn't a straw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and remaining members of the council. As you will recall, 2 weeks ago, by action of this council, you issued a challenge to John Mendiola, my purchasing manager, to work very quickly and diligently with Billy Casper Golf to come up with an agreement that would memorialize the proposal that they had submitted, that the council approved the negotiation on. We got to about 95% by the time that, well, a little bit past the time that we normally post the agenda, but still within the legal time for posting of the agenda. And in the interest of keeping us on schedule for a July 1 cutover, we went ahead and put it on the agenda. And I think I indicated that in the staff report that there was still some items that were still in discussion. And we completed those discussions Friday and Monday through additional huge effort by John, by Billy Casper Golf, by our city attorney, and also our risk manager. And I'm pleased to present this to you tonight as a final, save for one item that I'll mention in a moment. And that is regarding the compensation and fees. In our push to get a good negotiation in, one of the fees that we asked Billy Casper to alter was actually an incentive fee. Their standard incentive fee is 20%. That is over and above that is a part of the, quote, profit, although the city doesn't get a profit. Once Billy Casper gets the golf courses to a break-even point, then we finally start to get revenues in excess of expenditures, which is the city way of saying profit. Their standard agreements entitle them to 20% of that, quote, profit. And in our zealous negotiations, we asked them to reduce that to 10%, and they reluctantly agreed. However, after agreeing to it, and after it being published for you tonight, staff got to thinking about it, and we did not want to create a disincentive for them to get to that point. So, although the agreement is effectively final, the one that's on the dais tonight, under Section 7A in the second paragraph, I would request that we actually go back to their original proposal, which is not something that you've had a copy of, that would actually change that incentive fee to 20% of all of the, quote, profit made at the courses. That only occurs after the courses get to break even and beyond. And that is something that, according to their conservative proposal that they submitted, actually doesn't even occur within the first 5-year term of the agreement. It would occur sometime later. I call it a conservative proposal because, as you recall, a couple of weeks ago when we first talked about this, the references that we called indicated that they had been conservative in their proposal with them, but that in fact, within 3 years, they started to quote, turn a profit on the courses that they had taken over. So I would encourage you to accept that one final change and actually boost that incentive fee back up there so that we can get to the break even as quickly as possible. They haven't made any promises, but I think their past performance indicates that there's a strong likelihood that they're going to get there sooner rather than later.
We also have a cap on it of the 100% of the...
That's correct, and that cap is effectively $126,000 annually, which would be the 100% of the management fee. Yes. We do have representatives here from Billy Casper if you'd like to hear from them. I don't think they have any prepared statements, but they're here if you have any questions.
I make a motion to approve.
With the change?
Oh, reluctantly with the change.
I'll second your motion.
There we go.
Welcome. You think, huh?
Okay, the meeting will be adjourned to the June 29th, 2010 at 5 p.m. at Council Chambers.